And it's funny because every time a team in this market trades a guy or gets rid of a guy, we all fall back to the David Ortiz thing.
Yeah.
With the Twins. We traded, we just dropped. I'm sorry, we didn't even trade the guy. We just dropped him because he couldn't hit to the opposite field. Right. The Twins, that's what they wanted to do at that time. Whatever. He goes to Boston. They say, hey, pull away. Go ahead. Just pull the ball. And guess what he does? And he becomes an MVP. They win a World Series. And now, forever in the history of Minnesota sports, we're going to hear, did we drop a guy or trade a guy that could have been the next David Ortiz?
Right.
Okay. So, again, we're playing that game with Ramirez again. We're saying, well, we got rid of him, and he had a great time here, but is he the next David Ortiz? Is he going to go to L.A. and be better than he was here?
Probably.
The problem is you can't think of it that way. You have to think of it from a team standpoint.
Right.
And that's the worst, again, as a fan of soccer, as a fan of big sports in this network and in this community, you can't be devoted to a guy.
Yep.
I love Christian Ramirez. I love watching him when he's and with the Loons back in the ASL days. But at some point, things have to change.
Right.
And if he's not part of the new place we're going to go to, then trade him. Okay? And I'm not going to be pissed off about it. I'm going to be a little pissed off about it, but I'm not going to be upset about it as much as
I can inject. It is a bit
it's
frustrating.
A business.
It is a business, but it is a bit frustrating if you're head coach and like reading into David's comments and his theory. Like it's a bit frustrating if Adrian Heath knows that Christian Ramirez is a great forward, which he's a good forward. It's frustrating knowing that he just couldn't get the pieces that he needed to make him be a superstar in this league, which he could be.
And it's crazy to think the Christian Ramirez trade says to us, what we've been talking about for weeks now, it's not Heath's team.
Right.
It's Manny's team. Manny does what he wants to do. He gives those pieces to Heath and says, hey, I got you Angelo and Ibarra Jr. Do what you got to do with them.
Right.
And Heath goes, well, now I have too many flipping strikers.
Right.
What are you going to do? Oh, and Manny goes, well, I'll trade Christian Ramirez.
Right. Because you'll be able to spin it.
So,
yeah.
Do we need a hashtag? Do we need, as Lunacy Podcast, do we need to be hashtag Manny out or Heath out, or do we just stay away from that?
I can't play the Manny out game yet. I just can't until the end of the season. I have to see.
You're giving him 3 more months?
I have to see what's going to happen because it's a business, okay? Yeah. You can't make moves in the middle of the season and then decide, well, he sucks, and say, well, he doesn't know what he's doing, so I'll give him the rest of the season. But at the rest of the season, if they don't make the playoffs...
And how about the first transfer window into the new Allianz Field?
If I see that. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, then we have an issue. Well, then it's Manny out because if they don't make the playoffs...
Tony, I mean, the odds of making the playoffs at this point are, if you're betting, it's not good. I'm not going to pull the odds. I don't need to because I know they're not good. So you're telling me if they don't make the playoffs, are you going to be behind Manny out, or are you going to give him are you going to give him the first transfer window into the new season at Allianz Field?
I'm not, really, because you made these decisions.
Then why not out right now?
Because I want to see what happens after this.
Okay, so you're hoping for a high upside.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he knows what he's doing. Okay. Trading Ramirez was a bad deal, but we have to look at it from a business standpoint.
We don't know if it was a bad deal, and that's what we talked about.
Again, but we have to look at it from a business standpoint of, yes, we're all fans. We all loved Christian, okay? But would he be good for this team, or was he just an extra now because we got these other guys? Mm-hmm. Well, Manny thinks he was an extra because we got those other guys.
Right.
So let's see what Manny can do with what we got, and let's see what Heath can do. But if we don't make the playoffs, if we suck it up the next month and a half here, then it's Manny out. Then it's you fucked up, okay? You suck. We're going to a new stadium next year. You screwed up middle of the flipping season. You screwed up. We had a good thing going, okay? You need to add some pieces. but you didn't need to go crazy with it.
Right.
So that means to me that, hey, you shouldn't be here.
Right. And here's the thing. You bring up a good point. It's Manny's team. We've mentioned this before. The Legos family is crazy tied to Minnesota soccer.
Yes, they are.
To the point that, honestly, I don't know that they can do.
What's the history?
Wrong.
How long do they go back?
A long time.
Buzz Legos managed the
Buzz. Yeah, Buzz was the coach back in the '90s. We went to see games back there. I mean,
and
the
Manny,
Lagos has been around forever here.
Yeah, Manny played here. He had been in MLS too. But yeah, I mean, they've been involved with Minnesota soccer for decades now, and that's a problem because I think when you say it's Manny, when you suggest that it's Manny's team, I think Manny believes, I'm Manny Legos,
but
so I can do what I want.
In the same, you look back at it and you go, Manny's never been in this position before. MLS. This is a step up. Okay. When he was doing stuff and him and his dad were doing things in the NASL and before that, who cares if they screwed up?
Right.
Nobody gave a shit.
Right.
I mean, was everybody calling for their head back in the day when they made trades or different?
Right.
No, they didn't care. You're in MLS now. So if he can't put this shit together in the next month and a half, then he needs to go. And McGuire, as the owner, needs to come in and say, look, I went with Lagos because they're a Minnesota institution.
Right.
But I screwed up, and I'm going to make it better by getting somebody else. If he does that, I'll be happy. If he doesn't do that, then we have issues going to this new stadium.
Well, and I think if he doesn't do that,
Yeah.
and Heath goes,
Yeah.
I think we're going to have massive issues. A lot of supporters are going to be, praising the heavens because they hate they hate Adrian Heath for stupid reasons.
Exactly right.
But I think it's a mistake because, we could go into this about, Orlando. He didn't succeed at Orlando, but neither did Christ.
Yeah.
So is it him? Is Christ just as bad as him? Or is it the FO? And I think it's the FO.
It's FO.
Yeah.
We can play this game. I mean, Dave, you know this. You've watched enough Major League sports to know that you can get rid of the manager all you flipping want.
Right.
You can fire 5 managers in a year. But the general manager, the guy who makes those choices, is the guy he's the guy. He's the reason why you're having a bad season.
Yeah. And, we can go to baseball, use the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
They have been perennial losers my entire life, basically. And just until recently, they started getting a little better. But they've had a dozen managers in the last couple decades.
Look at Craig Counsell, though. Okay? Yeah. Great. I think Craig Counsell's a great manager.
I think he is, too.
And I think what they did in the offseason, getting Lorenzo Cain, getting Yelich, great time. I mean, fantastic.
Yep.
They did what they needed to do. Okay, I'm not going to blame Craig Counsell if they totally suck it up the rest of the year and don't make the playoffs.
Right.
I'm going to blame the general manager, and that's what I think in this case too. Is that if we don't make the playoffs this year, I'm not blaming Heath.
Right.
I'm blaming Manny Lagos.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
So, with that, you want to hear my evidence for why I think it's Manny Legos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or have we said enough about it?
Well, we know. I think we all know it's Manny. But what's your evidence?
Can you keep it to 130 characters?
I might be able to. So, in 2014, Campos gets injured. Mm-hmm. Christian Ramirez comes on.
Mm-hmm.
Rest is history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ends up scoring 21 goals, wins the Golden Boot.
Yep.
2015, what does Manny Legos do? He benches Christian Ramirez game 1.
Yeah.
Why? He was just Golden Boot. Why in the world would you do that?
Doesn't like him.
So, ends up, he plays fewer minutes in the first spring championship. Mm-hmm. He plays fewer minutes in the fall championship than he did in 14 or 16. And then on top of that, in 16, Manny Legos brings in Pino. complete competition. For what purpose? I have no idea. But luckily, Carl Craig was manager, so Christian Ramirez ends up playing more minutes.
Yeah.
Both spring and fall championship. Ends up scoring 19 goals in the season.
Yeah.
And then what happens in 2017? Oh yeah, after we sign Christian Ramirez to an MLS contract, we go and draft Abu Dinladi.
Yeah.
Why? Because we don't really know. I mean, we needed backup eventually, right?
Yeah, we did.
But so Manny drafts Abu. 2018, what happens? We have Christian Ramirez and Abu, and technically we still had what's his name? We signed him. He was from LA. I can't think of his name now.
Oh yeah.
He was on loan.
Yeah.
In 2018 Super Draft, we signed Mason Toy.
Yeah.
Why are we signing another forward? We already have two. We already had a guy on loan.
Yeah.
And then, of course, midseason, Manny Lagos brings in Angelo Rodriguez.
Of course.
When our midfield was the problem the entire time.
Yeah, and Rodriguez does not fit the bill of the players that you just mentioned, the Toys, and they're different forwards.
Yeah.
Like significantly
They're
different.
super fast, super quick. I'm telling you, Manny Lagos has orchestrated this since
a long
2014.
time ago, yeah. And that's what I'm saying is that if we're not going to be good the rest of the season, if we decide we're not going to the playoffs, then Manny needs to go.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people who believe that, although I think you'll say the same thing, is like there's a lot of supporters who believe that Heath is a problem. I don't think Heath's the problem. I think Manny's the problem. And Heath is just trying to do what he can with the roster he's been giving.
Right.
You know, you can't do much more with
I
it.
agree. The only thing you could, and I'm not taking a stance one way or the other, but I'm just saying the only reason you could get behind like Heath's issue is like, say, look at the defensive troubles. The reason why are the Loons getting down in the first half of games almost consistently?
But who they sign?
Is it their
That's the problem.
defensive? Is it a strategy? Is it coaching? That's why doesn't Miller?
I think it could be
know
preparation.
what to do.
But
it could be coaching preparation.
Is there
could be
coaching
coaching.
there? There might be,
But
I don't know.
Who has Lagos brought in for our defense
Yeah.
since he's been the GM?
Well, and the reality is, I mentioned this at the beginning when we were talking about the Galaxy match, is that the problems on defense can stem from the problems in the midfield.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what's going on. I saw somebody on Twitter take a knock at Pangop, which I thought was a little off base, but they said the defenders are getting this barrage of attacks. The midfield isn't doing anything. And finally, you get possession. You turn around. The only person you have to pass to is Pangop. Now, subtract that attack on Pangop. I thought he did pretty well last night. But the point that I take out of that is the midfield sucks.
Yeah.
And the defense is just doing whatever it can to maintain composure.
This reminds me, the whole drafting and signing of strikers and forwards reminds me of the Timberwolves. I'm a big T-Wolves fan. When I was a kid, they drafted Felton Spencer as a center. And the next year, they drafted Luke Longley as a center. And I'm going, what the flip are you doing? You drafted two centers in a row. Why do you need all these centers? And guess what? The GM was just an idiot, and decided to draft all these big guys because that's the way the league was going. And after a year, they decided, well, the GM is an idiot, so we're going to get rid of him.
So that was before Chris Wright.
I was going to say,
Yeah,
you're talking about centers, but talk about, if I'm not a huge Timberwolves fan, but if you want to talk about drafting and GMs, how about more recently then, the point guard.
Well,
they keep swinging
the
and missing.
Rubio, the whole, we'll talk, I can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't want to even get you started.
The whole Rubio draft and not Seth Curry. And
right.
then,
I don't even want to get you
name?
started, sorry.
And again, it's one of those things where you have a GM who thinks he's smarter than everybody else and says, well, I'm going to draft these three guys because, frankly, I'm going to have 3 point guards and they're all going to be great and I'm going to be the greatest team ever. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, what I guess I was referencing is Steph Curry, and like they were drafting point guard after point guard after point guard year after year after year. They swung and missed on him, but apparently that was because he's a big golfer. He is a big golfer. He's a great golfer, and he wouldn't
I don't
play
believe-
for
I
Minnesota
don't
because
believe-
our golf schedule is what 3 months long.
I don't believe